Okay, let's get going here. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for our live workshop where our guest, Dr. Renelli A. Williams, is going to help us take the fear out of money and put the love into money, because that's the name of the game. This is what I know to be true, is that everything in the universe is made up of energy, frequency, and vibration. And positive energy is going to create things, and negative energy is going to destroy things. It's just that simple. So if we have some fear around money, if our thoughts around money are those of lack and not enough and fear, guess what's going to happen? We're going to create more fear, lack, and not enough money. That's called a scarcity mindset. And in our culture, in the way we were grown up in this country, around money being used as a weapon, if you will, of reward and punishment, most of us, rich or poor, were traumatized by money growing up. And sometimes even under some of the most loving ways. I mean, your parents might want you to make good grades. They might compensate you for making good grades, and they might not compensate you if you make bad grades. But nevertheless, what we learned about money, it can be used to create some pain in our lives. And that's what trauma does. And so what I know is also a mindset coach like Dr. Renelli is that when we have a negative mindset, when we were traumatized by something growing up, we have a fear that we don't want that painful thing in our lives. So what's going on in the subconscious is, while we might think, oh, money would give us some freedom, we'd like to have it. At the subconscious, we're saying, I don't want anything to do with that. It's too painful. So that's why it's so important that we develop a positive, an abundance mindset, a mindset of truth, of worthiness. And one thing I will say too, that as a prosperity mindset coach myself, is that when we think negative thoughts about money, when we think about lack, then we're going to just create more of that lack in our lives. But when we think about, the truth is, we are worthy. And what I will also say this, I know as a coach, that people who are struggling with money, it is a worthiness issue. We don't feel we're worthy of it in some way. That's a negative belief. The truth is, we're more than worthy of it. So the antidote, I'm going to let her talk to more lecture, but the antidote is really just more self-love, more loving yourself, believing you're worthy, and believing in yourself. So, but Dr. Renelli is the master of money and positive mindset. And she's also a CPA. So she's got some she understands the technical side, where the pen hits the paper, but she also has a good understanding of how our mindset and how we think about money can create so much fear and struggle in our lives, that if we can change that mindset from fear to having a loving relationship with money, everything can change. So Dr. Renelli, thank you so much for joining us today for this workshop. And I'm going to just turn it all over to you and let you go with it. I may come in occasionally and ask some questions. We want to encourage anybody that's watching. And Steve, you're welcome to turn off, we like engagement. You're welcome to turn on your microphone and ask a question. And if you're watching the replay, which most people do, certainly you're welcome to ask some comments in the comment section. And I know I will, and probably Dr. Renelli will too, come back and comment and answer your questions in the comments if you're watching the replay, because we want this to be as good and informative and supportive to you in the replay as it is in the live workshop. So Dr. Renelli, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Martin, for inviting me on your platform to share today. By all means, please jump in at any time. I want this to be a little more interactive than being just a teaching session. So jump right in at any point. But I want to just start off by giving a little bit about my background,
Yeah,
right?
love
And
that.
what led me in this space. So I grew up on a tiny little island that most people haven't heard of in the Caribbean. It's called Montserrat. And when I say tiny, I mean tiny, 39 and a half
I'm
square
familiar with
miles
that.
tiny.
I'm familiar with that island, by the way.
Okay. So, that's where I grew up. And at a really early age, at about 10 years old, my dad, who was a pharmacist, he decided, to jump into entrepreneurship. So my grandmother, his mom, used to bake and sell in the village where she lived, but, never made a big venture of it, right? So my dad got a little taste of it from that, and he decided, I'm going to open a bakery. And so that's what he did, and he did that part-time, was still working full-time in his job for a long time. And, he was able to eventually quit his job and become full-time in his business. So that was my, early phase, introduction to entrepreneurship. Besides the fact that my mom's mom, had her little shop, as well. They were just creative, my grandparents were really creative in bringing money into the household. So anyway, at age 10, got introduced to the bakery, helped out a lot. But I found myself gravitating, or that's where people pushed me for whatever reason, is towards the cash register, right? You do the cashing, right? Because I guess because I wasn't that good at baking bread. And so, that's where I gravitated. Fast forward, at the age of 17, I moved to the United States. And I would say, most people move here in search of the American dream, right? Whatever that is, whatever that is. So, my mom, we moved here. I went to high school for a year, and then went into community college. Of course, what did I study at community college? Business management. Because, like I said, the seed was planted from there. Here's the thing though. First or second semester, I don't remember which one it was, but what I remember is walking around in the hallway of the college and seeing all these different stations with banks beckoning us over to apply for credit cards, right? Come on, apply for a credit card and you'll get this gift, right? And so I was lured, applied for the credit card, and didn't get just one, I got two. My license to spend in the middle of New York City, right? And, young girl, not being taught about the proper use of, of money, of credit cards. And so I spent a lot of my young adult life and adult life in debt, because it became a habit for me, right? Yeah, exactly. And I know that a lot of people can testify to this, right? And so, I started out my adult life in debt. So although I did the things that my mom, single mom, wanted me to do, get a good education, right? Get a higher education, get a good job that's paying well, all the things. I checked all the boxes. After I graduated from, with my associates in business management, I transferred to my 4-year college and majored in accounting, because I realized I love numbers. I took my first accounting course and I said, this is it. And so got my bachelor's degree in accounting, went on to get my MBA. So I kept checking the boxes. Then I was looking for a new job because I wasn't satisfied where I was, and recognized that the jobs that attracted me, not only was the MBA great for that, but they wanted a person with a CPA license. And so I halted my search. I'm like, I'm not searching anymore, and went back and studied for the CPA exam. and then, took the exam. So that's my path, into accounting. And once I graduated, once I passed the exam, then you required a experience in auditing in order to get licensed. And that led me to public accounting at Deloitte & Touche. And so I worked at Deloitte for about 3 years, really great experience, transitioned into internal audit, spent about 10 years with that company. And then, I'll talk a little bit about, getting, let go from that, collecting my severance, and decided I'm going to jump full in to my accounting business that my husband had already started part-time. So
I love it.
that's my journey, right? But remember, I said I started out my career or my adulthood in debt. And so why did that happen? Like many, of us, we are not educated financially, right? It's not done a lot in our households. It's not done a lot in schools, right? We are just, expected to sink or swim, figure it out, on our own. But, thank God I eventually figured it out and realized that, I want to help as many people as possible, if I can catch them early enough so that they don't go down the path that I go down, or, the older ones, like myself, help realize that all is not lost if you had made some mistakes financially, right? Like Martin said, we can turn things around. It's all a mindset, right? It's all a mindset. And a lot of times, because we have made those money mistakes in our lives, we feel like we hold ourselves, guilty for a lifetime. Mm-hmm. And we don't think that we deserve better because I'm the one that messed up, right? Or I'm not worthy of abundance because I mismanaged my money. Well, I'm here to tell you that you are worthy and you deserve it, right? I don't know what higher being you believe in. I personally believe in God, who said that, he wants abundance for all of us. And I believe that, we are capable and we should live an abundant life.
Well, God he made us out of, he or she or it made us out of abundance.
Yes.
Out of abundant, loving, creative energy. And money is energy. Everything is energy. Everything in the universe is energy vibrating at different frequencies. And so when we vibrate at a higher frequency of love and abundance, we're going to attract money and love and abundance. We're going to attract abundance in our lives. Mm-hmm. But if we're out there if we're aligned with our negative thinking and we're putting out a negative vibration into the universe, then we're going to attract lack, because, energy follows your thoughts. Mm-hmm. And money is an energy, and it's going to follow the energy that follows our thoughts. So if your thoughts are thoughts of abundance and prosperity, which is the truth, then you're going to create an abundant, wealthy lifestyle. Yeah. But it certainly is hard when you're up against the wall. I know when I had my dark night of the soul, I was facing bankruptcy, and I had to really go down into the dark nights of my debts of myself. And this still voice in me came out and said, "Martin, none of this stuff matters. You're really worthy. You're a wonderful, loving man." And everything changed.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't say it enough. It's our mindset. One of the things that, come back to me, and I'm sure if we were to be able to poll the audience, right, and ask, what are some of the things that you heard about money, growing up? Exactly. I personally remember hearing money is the root of all evil, right? That's what I heard
Mhm.
constantly. That quote, or the proper quote for that came from the Bible. And what the Bible says is the love of money is the root of all evil. Not money is the root of all evil. And so, in my mind, you always, although you wanted more and to achieve more, it was always about what if, and especially, for me, I grew up in the church. And so, you didn't associate riches with humility. You didn't associate abundance and prosperity with humility, right? So God forbid that you wanted more. Like, how dare you, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of false narratives in. I grew up Christian too, and I'm a Christian. I'm a mystic, so I can tell you right now, we got pulled into a lot of false narratives around a lot of things, and that being one of them for sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk. I love that. Let's talk about one of my favorite quotes in the Bible about it's easier for the camel to pass through the eye of the needle than a rich man to get into the kingdom of heaven. And
Yeah.
that's that I talk about a lot. I'd like to hear your thoughts about that quote, what it means.
So for me, that was so scary. Like, I was scared of riches because it almost, like the way it was presented, it's like if the rich man, how should I say it? It's almost like it was forbidden to be rich, or else you're not going to go to heaven.
Right.
Right. And so as a child growing up, so we're not supposed to be rich. And that got planted, in my mind.
Because
right?
if you're rich, you're a bad person. You're not going to heaven.
You're not going to heaven. Exactly. You're rich. You're bad. You're forbidden. You're not getting into heaven. So how do you now, what's your interpretation of that scripture, Martin?
Well, I love that. Thank you for asking me back my question, but I'll give you my answer to it. And that is, it is not about the money itself. You don't have to give up your riches. You don't have to give up your Mercedes Benz or your nice car or your wonderful life. You have to give up your attachments to it. And that's what they're talking about in the Bible. If we are so attached to our money that we think we can't enjoy life without it, that's what we're talking about. And so many rich people work so hard and they're so attached to their money. They're so attached to their riches that they can't go into and to me, heaven is not someplace we go after we die. Heaven is a higher plane of consciousness that we go into when we clear our mind and we open our heart to the truth of what's going on in the world. So what we can't go into that realm of consciousness, to that higher realm of unconditional love, if we're still holding on to a condition, because we have to be in an unconditioned, unjudgmental place. But if we believe that we're not going to be happy unless we hang on to our possessions, money,
right,
then we're not going to get through that eye of the needle. We're not going to get into that space where we can create money. That's the beauty of it. You don't need to bring it with you into the kingdom of heaven, because when you've got the keys to the heavens, to the kingdom, you can create all the money you want to create. There's no reason to want to hang on to it because you have the power to create it. That's how I would interpret it.
I love that. I love that. It's all about, how you think about it. And if you feel you have to hold on to it, it's like the rich young ruler, right? Was that the one where he asked Jesus, how do I enter heaven? And he said, sell all your possessions and give it to the poor. He was like, what? I've already done this and this and this. And he named all the other things he did, but he couldn't, sell his possessions and give to the poor. So it's all about.
Because he was attached to them.
He was so attached to it.
And so emotionally and mentally attached to them. And that's why he couldn't. But if he could say, wait a minute, I could get more. I can go get some more. I didn't come here with it, and no one did. I always said, well, how do you create money? You create it out of thin air, the way everything else is created. There is an energy field. I call it the field of potentiality and prosperity that we're floating, that we're living in. And that is really how everything is created in the world. It's created out of the space in which we're living in. That's the creative engine of the universe.
Yeah, yeah. And another quote that I heard often, Martin, that I want to bring up is, you ask your parents for something, for example, and the response is, you think money grow on trees, right? Have you ever heard that money doesn't grow on trees? I know I've heard that, so many times. And the point is that there's not this continual abundance of money, and, you grow up with these hearings and they get planted. You don't realize, right, how much they affect you as you grow into adulthood. Like you constantly think of that.
I mean, and also the things we pick up from our parents, like my, when I was a little boy, I'd hear my parents arguing, my mother mostly, because she was a young woman with a small child, a 4 or 5 year old boy. And sometimes my father didn't bring home enough money to suit her, and she'd get mad at him, and we couldn't do something she wanted to do. And she'd get so mad at him, and I'd be, as a little kid, I would interpret that as like, oh my God, I better be rich. I better make a lot of money, or my mama's going to be mean to me like that. I'm not lovable. And that was really my core belief. And that fear drove me up to being successful as a wealth manager. But it was a fear-driven drive that all came tumbling down, because anything driven by fear is going to be destructive. But I was so afraid that if I didn't make a lot of money, that I was unlovable. All of that's part of the scarcity mindset.
And the overuse of credit cards is the same thing. It comes from that fear. It's like, I have to have that thing, right? And it's not having the real knowledge and skills as to how to really handle money. How do I be a good steward, of the little that I have, whether it's, if it's little, so that I can be blessed with more. Because that's another part of it, right? It's, it's how you handle it. Because if you can't handle a little, then, when you're blessed with a lot, what happens? You're going to mismanage it as well. So
what would you say the biggest antidote is to, if you're feeling that sense of lack, and you're not, because so you get that bill from the IRS, and it's like, oh my God, look at all the money. All of a sudden you get triggered, and you're feeling down, you're feeling unworthy, and you feel like the world's against you. What do you think the best way for someone to get out of that? What do you do for yourself, and what do you tell your clients to do to shift from that negativity to a place of positivity?
Yeah, I mean, going back to what you mentioned, Martin, about, we can create money, right? And so if we calm down a little bit and just recognize, okay, my present does not dictate my future, right? What am I, so this is where I am right now. What am I going to do about it? And, in order for you to get to that place, you have to start normalizing speaking about money, right?
Yeah. And how you feel about it.
And how you feel about it, so get around, people who make speaking about money easy, right? And, so talk about money. Get with your accountant and talk about money. Get with someone like Martin, and talk about money, right? Because the more you talk about it, is the more it becomes normal. Like, oh, money is just a tool.
It's just energy,
Yeah.
It's just energy, like everything, and it's got a negative charge and a positive charge. One of the things that I suggest people do is to stop, like you say, and just look around and say, wait a minute. Instead of thinking about what I don't have, why can't I look around and say, oh, I am so grateful for all the things that I do have? I have a big philosophy about what about the pandemic, by the way, and it is this. It was like a big timeout from the Divine Mother. And she said, okay, all you people, I make this beautiful paradise on earth. It is abundant with everything you can imagine. And I give you the power to create anything that you want. And all you've done since the beginning of time is complain about not having enough. You've complained and you've torn it apart. You've disrespected it and you've complained. Okay, everybody go to their rooms and shut the door and don't come out until you can be grateful for what you got.
Ooh, I like that analogy. I really do. I really do.
And
Yeah.
I think a lot of people did that. I think there is a movement that's happening in the world as a result of COVID. Is people, it took money off that pedestal and said, wait a minute, there is something big. I don't love. It's okay to love the money like you love everything else, but don't make it an idol.
Right.
So I think people took it off the pedestal because we're having this great big resignation from companies. Say, I want to work. I want to enjoy life.
Yes.
I want to be happy. And I want a maximum opportunities to make the world better.
Yeah.
Because when I'm in service to the world and I am grateful for what I have, I'm happy, I'm full of joy, and I feel like I have something to offer. I'm in service to something.
Yeah.
And that's really what we all want. We think more money is going to bring us happiness. But I can tell you, for years as being a wealth manager, more money never made anybody happy. As a matter of fact, sometimes more money made people more miserable.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's why, and I'm speaking to the entrepreneur right now, is that's why, whenever we're growing these businesses, we have to have a bigger why, right?
That's it. That is the key, a bigger why. Well, explain what you mean by a bigger why. What do you mean by the bigger why?
Yeah. So when you get all the money, right, that you're seeking, you increase revenue, you increase revenue, you increase revenue, then what? Right? That's the bigger why. Then what? What's the purpose? What is going to bring you joy and fulfillment? It's not the money.
Right.
It's not the money. It's the next thing. It's the why. It's the why.
It's the impact.
Can I help?
Yeah, it's the impact on the world
that
we created by making the world better that allow the money to flow into the world so we have more to put back out in the world.
Oh my God.
With somebody else, it's all about money is energy and it should flow. So when we open up our hearts to receiving money, to fulfill a divine mission, a divine purpose, that's our why. Our divine purpose is our why. I am here on this planet, and I think the first thing that I teach you got to know your divine purpose. If you don't know your divine purpose, we got to go back and we got to start with that. Because if you don't know what you're here for, why you're on the planet, and you think you're here to make money, I got news for you. And that ain't why you're here. You're here to do something for the betterment of the world. You're here and you want to give all your gifts. And I would say that in my stage of life, I'm in what I call the third stage of what I call the superior man, where it's all about, I want to get everything out to the universe. And I find that the more I give, the more I get back. And I want to give everything out. I don't want to make $10 million from Martin Coward. I want to make $10 million to put back out into the world to create a wealthier planet. A world of abundance and prosperity.
Yeah. I love that. The more you give is the more you get back. And it truly is, it's the truth. It's the absolute truth. Yeah. I love that so much. So where else do you want me to take this, Martin?
Well, I like that so far. Let's take somebody who really has a negative cash flow, which I've had, it's hard because you're trying to run a business and you're trying to make something happen. What is the first thing someone can do? You give them your first thing someone can do, and I'll give them my first thing. You go first. That they can do to get that, break that cycle so they can begin to work from a place of positive cash flow.
Yeah. So the first thing I would say is, it's important to embrace the truth, right? Embrace the truth of where you are, but also don't stay there. Recognize that, and figure out the destination that you want to get to, right? Figure out your destination. And then now if we know where you are, where you want to go, it's easy to build the path, right? You plug, you get a GPS to help you get to where you want to go. If you don't know where you are, that GPS, well, now they're intelligent, so they can pick up where you are, right?
Thank God.
Yeah. But if you don't know where you're going, what are you going to do? Just, you're just going to be wandering down the road, and, eventually I'll just stop somewhere, right? So, really being clear about your destination, what you want to accomplish, that why, who you want to serve, all of that. It starts there. And it might be like, I'm so stressed out right now with this negative balance, and now I have to think about where I want to go. Yes. Yes.
I agree, and I love that. You got to stop and look at what is going on. And I think, and I will say, I mean, it was around this issue that I had my enlightenment moment. And it was around a moment in my life when I was going through a very dark time. And I'd gone from being a really high producer in a wealth management firm with a big old fancy office overlooking Park Avenue. You thought I was the big deal. And then we elected Donald Trump president. And for this gay boy, it was like all the bullies had just gotten put into power. So I went into a dark night of the soul. And quite frankly, within a few months, I was on the edge of bankruptcy. Literally, I'd gone from being a top producer, and my friend said, "Martin, you're not making enough money." I couldn't make any money. I was in so much fear that I was just projecting negativity out in the world. So there was nothing coming in because I was so negative. I was so full of fear and panic and distrust that I went into this dark place. And I remember one day I was at home, and this may sound a little funny, but I'm a spiritual teacher, so I can talk about what I want to. But I was at home one day having a big old pity party, feeling sorry for myself, And I called my spiritual teacher, Teresa, and she said, "Well, I don't recommend you declare bankruptcy. I don't think that's going to help anything. It might make you feel better temporarily, but it's not going to solve your problem. If you want to solve this, you're going to have to surrender it to God." Mm. And that's when I really understood the spiritual principle of surrender. And like you said, I had to get down on my hands and say, God, I had to take responsibility for how I got there. And so I couldn't blame it on the work or the world. I had to say, God, I have made a mess of my money. I am feeling shame. I'm feeling embarrassed. I'm a wealth manager and I can't even friggin' pay my mortgage and my car payment. I'm so embarrassed about this. But I know this. I know you're the creator of the universe. I know you created me and you love me. And if I come to you and I give this to you, I surrender this to you, you're going to help me.
That's right.
And guess what? All of a sudden, this blanket of like grace descended into my body. And this still small voice said to me, Martin, none of this stuff that you worry about matters. All this stuff about being in a fancy car, a fancy house, or being rich. Your mama loves you whether you're rich or poor. Don't worry about that. Stop that nonsense. All you have to do for the rest of your life is show up in the moment with love and gratitude, with an open heart, and I will do the rest. And that I is named Joy the Wise Woman. That I, the big I, not the little I, but the big, be still and know that I am God, I, said, and because that's always the doer in the world. That's always the how. We have an illusion as humans that we're doing things. We're just saying yes or no.
Right.
So we learn to say surrender and say yes to God and have faith that the universe has got my back. And I thought I wanted to get more clients and become and make more money there. But what I really wanted, what God gave me, was this career where I've never had more fun and never lived in more abundance in my entire life. Mm-hmm. And that's how I would say it. So one, just what Dr. Millie says, first you got to own it. You got to take responsibility for it. I made this mess. Don't try to blame the world. You solve. If you want to solve a problem, you got to own that you created it. Then you got to get really clear about what the problem is, how you created it, and where did it come from. And then you just got to say, God, I made this mess. It's bigger than me. I can't handle it. I need your help. And I know you love me, and I know you're going to help me. That's what surrender. That's the power of surrendering. That's one of the most powerful principles in all of spiritual creation, is to surrender the egoic beliefs of negativity and not enough to a higher heart.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Totally agree. Totally agree. This is so good. And don't, don't be overwhelmed with grief and, and guilt is the word that I want to use. Don't be overwhelmed with guilt that you panic and not be able to, to move forward. Right. And like Martin said, and like I've explained, even us, financial experts, we have issues too. If we don't, if right, if our mind is not right, all the knowledge in the world that we have means nothing. Right? All the knowledge means nothing. How many doctors do you see that are not healthy?
Yeah, again, it's about mindset,
Yes,
all about how we think about ourselves.
exactly.
And we've got to love ourselves and know that we're worthy first. And I think that they did a study and they said which people have wealth and which one those don't. The only big difference is those who think they're worthy of it and those who think they're not.
Mm-mm-mm.
Yeah, it's always, and then if you don't think you're worthy, practice, ask yourself how much time do you spend attacking yourself during the day? How much time do you spend attacking yourself for not doing the right thing, not being in the right place, or whatever, versus telling yourself how much you love yourself and how proud you are of yourself? And I think that's one of the biggest things we can do, is begin to quit attacking ourselves for whatever and say, well, you know what? Like you said a while ago, I love you, Martin. I love you, Dr. Nelly. I love you. And I'm really proud of what I've created. And I really appreciate you. And I got your back, and we're going to create as much money as you want,
Yeah.
We're going to begin to live from a place of love and generosity and truth. This is the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I need to bring some of this into my accounting practice. Like, I feel like I should be going through this session with some of my clients. We talk a lot about the tactical stuff, do this, do that, but I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
I find it's not so much about what we do, it's about who we be. And it's really more about being in the reality of being the creator of the universe, being in that higher level of consciousness state, then we can create, and we'll do things we'll do what the creator of the universe does.
Mm-hmm.
We will create more wealth. We will create more abundance. We will create from that place,
So be first, and then the doing will follow.
Yeah, be first and the doing will follow, which is not what we're taught in this country, because we're taught, that's again, if you do this, if you do that, if you do this, if you do that, you'll get money, because that's what we were taught. And it's not about the doing, it's about the being.
I love that. I love it. I love it. All right. Are we going to give the people some tactical stuff, or?
Yeah, give them enough of my sort of spiritual woo-woo nonsense. Let's give them something that they can write, they can put on a piece of paper, and once they start being the creative universe, what are they going to do with that?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to, start off on the personal side, and then I'll talk a little bit about business, right?
Okay.
So, on the personal side, so let's go back to the question. You find yourself in a negative cash flow. Now what? Right? Yeah. Now you start telling yourself, I deserve more. I deserve better. Right? I am worthy of it.
Yes.
Right? So we've already taken care of that side of it, right? Now, what's next? What comes next? What can you do practically, around your money? So I know people don't like the B word, but I'm gonna use the B word. We need to create a budget. And I call it, let's call it a spending plan, right? let's eliminate the B word and call it a spending plan. Like it's so important, to create that. And I know a lot of times when people think budget or they think spending plan, they think restriction. Let's remove the word restriction and just say we're telling our money where to go. I'm telling my money what I want it to be used for, right? And so, even when we talk about creating that spending plan, yes, we have to build in some of the things like vacation, because especially after the last 2 years, I know I can't go one more year without a vacation. Right?
Well, I'm a big believer in putting space around stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, I'm not staying locked up for one more year. It's not happening. And so, that budget needs to include, that vacation time. And whatever it is, that's going to serve you so that you can serve the world better. Let's build that into the budget. Where we get into problems is where we have no plan.
Yes.
Right? Is where we have no plan. So definitely make sure that you get that plan in place. And there's so many resources. Just Google, budget software, budget, and you'll be able to come up with so many that allows you to either connect to your bank account or you can manually, enter the information in. So yeah, definitely do that. We also want to make sure that
the idea of a spending plan versus a budget. A spending plan is a mindset shift because it says, oh, I get to spend my money on these things.
Yes.
I get to spend money on these things. Yes. Budget says is like you said,
I can't. It's the opposite. That's it right there, Martin.
You got to make that say, okay, here's how much I got coming in, and I get this. And so you begin, well, I get to spend this on this, I get to spend this. And I love what you said. Make sure you get to spend some money on some self-care. Massage, get your hair done, whatever makes you feel better. Make sure you spend some money on that.
Yeah. I love that. I'm writing that down because I always, talk about the shift from budget to spending plan, but I just love how you say it. The budget is like telling you what you can't do. The spending plan is saying, I get to spend my money on this. I love that. Absolutely love that. The other thing, right, is, an emergency fund. And maybe you can come up with a better word for that, Martin, as well. But, but here's the thing, right? We know that regardless of what the weather looks like outside, one day it's going to rain.
Yeah.
One day it's going to rain. And so if we're going to expect rain and we're going to be walking outside, we don't want to be drenched. And so we prepare ourselves by having a raincoat inside, having an umbrella, those things. Same concept with our money and our finances. We know that one day, it's not if, it's one day there will be an emergency in my life. Whatever it is, losing your job, family member suddenly passes away, there's not enough money set aside to for their burial, whatever, you're not prepared for the thing, but the thing will happen. And that's why we need to have that emergency fund in place so that in the event, so that when emergencies happen, that we're ready for them.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. And you might ask, okay, Dr. Nerly, what does that need to look like? How much needs to be in my emergency fund? 3 to 6 months of your living expenses is what's recommended. So if I'm working with someone who is at zero right now, zero emergency fund, I say, let's see what we can do as quickly as possible. Let's go in the attic. Let's go in the garage. Let's see what's hanging out in the house that is of some, value that you can sell, or whatever it is that you need to do. Let's build a quick $1,000 emergency fund. Let's start that simple. Let's build a quick $1,000 emergency fund. After that, our next goal is the 3 months of your living expenses, and what amount that would be. That's when you create a spending plan, then you will have a clear idea of what your living expenses are, right? And so you want to get to 3 months of that. When you get there, then you set your next goal for 6 months. It's one bite at a time. How you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So don't, if your living expenses is, let's call it $4,000 a month. So now you're thinking 6 months is $24,000. Oh my God, that's so overwhelming, right? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. That's why we're starting with the $1,000, then we're increasing the goal, and then we increase it again.
I love
Okay.
I love that. That's a great way. What about, people are always advertising debt consolidation, home equity lines of credit. What do you think about, I mean, I think probably some of them are credible, and I think some of them are probably not credible.
Right.
Because they're all trying to sell you something that is not necessarily in your best interest. I know I've bought those things in the past. And what's your thought about that? How do you differentiate between people between those things you can, debt consolidation, or maybe even going through if you're having trouble with the IRS, getting an offer to compromise and all that kind of stuff. What about some of those things? And I got taken to the cleaners by some outfit that was going to help me with an offer to compromise, and they were the biggest crooks on the planet.
Right.
And they cost me a lot of money. And so back in the day when I had that big problem, and I ended up doing it myself. But what do you?
We can't. What I say, Martin? We can't approach it out of fear, right? So we need to step back and just know that there's a solution to everything under the sun.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. There's a solution to everything under the sun. So start there, and that would calm you enough that you don't have to rush into the first thing that comes your way.
All right. Right?
And so it's important to really do your due diligence, when it comes to, so, and you may not be adept with a lot of the financial terms, but the person who is, saying that they want to help you, they should be willing to break everything down for you to the, give you so much detail and explain to you, and definitely make sure that you're looking for references, right? And testimonials, and, see who they've helped, how they've helped them, and be able to really check out their credentials. And, like I said, don't be in a rush.
Oh, I got a great question for you.
Yes.
I get these unsolicited emails from people telling me that there is this money available, because I have a small business, from the government for these loans, and you want to take advantage of them. I'm suspect of them because of the way they arrive unsolicited in my it's like, that sounds too good.
Who are you?
Call us up right now. We got, and let us help you apply for these blah, 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 blah loans that are available, that are, funded by the government because of COVID, and they're going to help you and all that kind of stuff. And I'm thinking, really? I'm like, well, why?
Delete.
Why don't, I'm a pretty smart guy. Why don't I know about, I did get some PPP loan from the government because it was something that was talked about by credible sources. It was like the NGLCC had some things on say how you go back applying for it. I got it through Chase Bank, and now I'm getting some things that right here on my desk. It says, how do you get forgiveness for your PPP loan? Mm-hmm. It feels right. It feels legitimate, and I get these unsolicited emails, call me back. And then I try to call back the number, and it's like, nobody picks up on the phone. I'm like, this is not real. Right. Whatever this is, it ain't real. It's somebody trying to sell me something, and probably trying to find information about my credit card or my social security
account
number,
so that they can dig in. Yeah.
So those are the things how does it feel? Does it feel like are you in fear and it feels like somebody's trying to rescue you? Or are you feeling in a place of you've calmed down and you say, well, we got a problem here, and all of a sudden and it just doesn't smell right. It just says, oh, this is just too good to be true, you know?
Yeah, normally you go with your instinct,
Yeah.
right? And that's why it's important that divine connection is important, so that you can discern. You're
Right.
able to discern when something just does not seem right, because too many people have lost based on, I have a friend who, um they were something they bought from eBay and they returned it. And so now, eBay needed to refund. And apparently eBay reached out and said, we want to refund it to your Cash App. Like, really? That doesn't even sound right. Right?
Right.
We want to, yeah, exactly. And what happens is they sounded so credible that they gave their Cash App information. And what did the person do? Clean them out.
Yeah. Oh, you remember one thing. Again, I have a friend that somebody cleaned. They took out a bunch of money out of his second. Because what he got was a text from Citibank. It looked like Citibank, and said, "There's been a fraud alert on your account,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to give us you get back and get us some information right away."
Mm-hmm.
And he did, and he gave him information, and they all of a sudden they were taking out money, and they were taking out money out of his account. Do not. You say it, and then I'll say it. If you get something from your bank, what you get on the phone to your bank, the actual, get on a separate number and you call your bank and you say, hey, I got something from you guys that said I had a problem. Do I have a problem?
Exactly.
They will look it
Exactly.
up for
And
you.
here's the other thing, right? If you get on the phone with your bank and you say, oh, I don't remember my account number, they will never give you your account number on the phone, right? The bank is not going to,
No.
there's certain things that they just don't give you on the phone. So just recognize that anytime people are asking you for certain information, that you need to double check. You need to, as Martin said, hang up the phone. I'll call the bank directly.
Yeah, they won't. And the one thing they often will verify are things like, what are the last, and even if you call them, they'll say, well, they won't ask you for my social security number. I'll say, what are the last four digits of social security?
Exactly.
And I'll tell them, okay, what's your birthday?
Mm-hmm.
They're just verifying. But in this case, I called them. I have their Citibank number or their Chase number, or whatever it is. And I called the bank, and they're going to verify with me that they're talking to Martin Coward.
Right.
And so you want to do the same due diligence when you call the bank. Particularly if you just picked up the phone and they tell you, well, I'm Citibank calling. I'll say, well, tell me a little bit why you calling me. And like you say, you do your deal. Well, what's my account number? You ask them what the account number is.
Yeah, you tell me.
You tell me what my account number is. You tell me where my bank account's located. You tell me what branch I'm in.
Exactly.
You tell me my birthday. What do you have on record for me? You do your due diligence on that side, and now I think you'll avoid some real unnecessary pain.
Exactly. And again, it boils down to, fear-based. Fear of not enough. So let me give this information so I can, a lot of times we just have to relax when it comes to money, remove the fear and walk in faith.
I love that. Faith is the bird that feels the light in the dark before dawn.
I love that. I've heard you say that before, and I love it.
One of my favorite quotes in the world, and I think that
Did you come up with it?
No, it's a quote by a guy, an Indian guy, I think a Sufi or someone, or an Indian, I forget. It's a part of a song. It's quite famous, and I love it. It's one of my favorite.
I love it too.
It's not. I wish I had, but I did not come up with that. But I use it a lot because I think it just really helps to understand what faith is. Is that because we know we can feel. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling the world is shifting to a brighter light, a better world. And I can just feel that happen, and particularly in the darkness of the way the world is right now, with what's going on in the Ukraine and all these turmoils around the world, which is very dark and very painful. And but what I can feel in this darkness with faith is that this is this darkness is coming to an end in a higher level of consciousness sort of way, in a loving, light-driven, love-driven world kind of way, where we're all being pulled into a unified heartbeat of God. That's my my spiritual component.
Beautiful.
So we're about to come up on our hour here, which has been such a joy. I want people to be able to find you and get in touch with you and get to know you the way I have. What is the best way for people to find you, Dr. Minnelli?
Yeah, so I can be found hanging out on Facebook. I have a group on Facebook called the Profitable Entrepreneurs Network. So if you are an entrepreneur and you're ever looking for tips and strategies around running a more profitable business, then that's the place to be. I also have a workshop that's coming up May 23rd to the 27th. And so it's called Maximize Your Profits Workshop. Again, all around, building a profitable business for a timeless legacy. And if this is your desire, then please join us in the Maximize Your Profits Workshop by going to ERJ Services. It is maximizeyourprofitsnow.com, maximizeyourprofitsnow.com/workshop. And then I was going to mention that my business website is erjservices.com.
Okay, well, thank you so much for that. Then let me plug a little bit of something I got going coming up.
Yes.
On May 16th, I have got a free 5-day workshop called The Real Gay, Bi, and Trans Business Leaders Hero's Journey. And what that journey is, what that adventure is an adventure into your heart. That's what the hero's journey is. It is to step from the fears and take that little journey from the head to the heart. So we can begin to lead from that place of the heart. We can begin to lead from that powerful, creative place that's within us that creates wealth. But we first got to be able to become aware of the fact that we've got to move all those shadow beliefs. And the workshop starts out around money. We look at your money story. And we're going to go back and we're going to find out, because all of us were traumatized by money. So we're going to go back and we're going to look at where did that story come from that told you weren't worthy of money? Mm-hmm. Because we got to unpack that. Because what I find always when we're dealing, money is one of the biggest culprits in our sense of worth. So we start with going back to our money story and we look at, well, what is it? Where did I learn? Like for me, I was learning my parents, and I made up a story that I wasn't worthy as I made a lot of money. But when you go back to it as an adult and say, well, that's just not what's really true. I'm a really powerful, creative, queer man, and I got all the power I needed within me. So now I know who I am. The next thing is we're going to develop a mission. Your why is what I said. We're going to come through. We're going to give you your why. Why am I here on the planet? God made this wonderful creature called Martin and Dr. Minnelli, and we're here to serve a purpose. And we got all the creative genius within us we need, infinite potential. Now, what are we going to do with it? So we come up with a mission statement. We come up with a North Star. And then the third day of the workshop is we're going to talk about, well, how do you sustain this? How do you stay in connection with this divine presence to guide us toward that North Star? So it's a three-part course. It's free. And it's coming up on May 16th. And if you're interested, come look at it. Come find us in our Facebook group, or just find me, Martin Coward. And I'll drop the link for that, to register for that in the show notes of this when we publish it. But that's coming up and it's free, and that's going to be starting on May 16th, and it's free for anybody. It's not 5 full days. It's anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour a day for 5 days. So And we might even have some bonus days on the end. So it's a little fun, active, interactive shadow work type workshop that I think you're going to enjoy. So join us over there for that if you'd like to. We'd love to have you for that.
Awesome.
Otherwise, Dr. Renee, it's been such a joy having you on here, and I love speaking to. By the way, I'm also a CPA. I don't know if I told you that.
Yes, you did.
I am, but I'll tell you something. I became a CPA because I thought they were for all the wrong reasons, not because I particularly liked it, but because I looked at people who were CPAs and they made money.
Money.
And I was trying to make my mother love me, so they were respected. They made money, and I did it, and I was a terrible accountant today.
Well, I'm sure you learned some stuff that you were, transit, like in.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm really grateful because when I became a wealth manager, I could easily understand people's financial situation, the cash flow, and be able to talk about it intelligently. But when it comes like balancing books, and oh my God, the world's worst.
Right. Right.
So I appreciate what you accountants do out there to keep us informed about what our finances are about, so that we can make good decisions from that. So thank you so much for that today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Okay, well, we'll have to see you real soon, and thank you, and may love and prosperity prevail throughout the world.